All right. So here's the last thing that we're going to watch. This is Jack Dorsey, one of my favorite guys out there right now. And believe it or not, before I got into Bitcoin, I thought that Jack was a bad dude. I thought he was a bad actor. Just because of everything that happened with Twitter, how much they censored the 2020 election stuff, how many people they were kicking off of Twitter for sharing their views on the medical stuff that's been happening in the last couple of years. I thought he was a bad guy. But I've come to realize that he actually didn't have any sort of control of that at the time. When you're a public company, even though you're CEO or you hold a very high title, when you're a public company, it's not the CEO that makes the decisions, it's the board of directors. And so from what I've heard of the story, it seems like Jack really wanted Twitter to be an open source network. And, you know, when you turn into a public company, your shareholders are relying on you to earn profit. That's how public companies work. You're not going to invest in a company who's not earning any money. So the board of directors took it in a totally different direction. They got rid of Jack. They turned it into this advertising algorithmic nightmare pretty much that it's turned into. And Jack has kind of stepped away from that. He's still a shareholder in Twitter, but he's been doing so many good things within Bitcoin and within nostr. Very, very respectable. I can't imagine how many Bitcoin he's dropped on funding these projects. He's funded OpenSats. He funded nostr right off the bat. Apparently, this is the story of it. This is the rumor, is that he discovered nostr. He wanted to invest in the development of it, and he reached out to guys like Pablo and I think Fiat Jeff. I think he's the nostr guy, but he was looking for like a foundation that he could donate some Bitcoin to, and they're like, we don't have a foundation. We're just building this thing. And so it sounds like this is the story that I've heard, is that he sent like 50 or 100 Bitcoin to Fiat Jeff while they were at a coffee shop, or he was at a coffee shop. But on like the Moon Wallet, he sent 50 or 100 Bitcoin, I forget what it was, to jumpstart the development of nostr. So this is Jack and Odell talking about why Jack spends his time and energy working on tools like nostr. So let's listen to this.
Why do you focus so much time, energy, money on nostr?
It's the only reason I'm in a position that I can even consider doing something like this is because of the grace of the open source developers on the internet and the way that the internet was built. For those of you who are as old as me, you remember Usenet, you remember the early days of Linux, you remember Gopher, you remember the early days of the web, you remember the principles, but most importantly, you remember that you could read the code. And that was incredible. And the fact that all these APIs were open, the fact that Rabel brought this up, that TCP/IP, the very foundation of the internet, was considered the ugly, wrong choice, and people made it work. And every single interaction we have today in the world, every single person in the world has an interaction today where they touch that work, and they touch this concept of the bazaar model instead of the cathedral. And we have so many companies and we have so many organizations trying to build this cathedral model and control it and take more and more so that they can profit more and more. And we need to have an opinionated and different approach that we build in parallel. For when those things fail, which they will, we have some place that people can go to. And that's what gives me a lot of patience around what everyone is building here, is because like our only goal here is just to build in parallel and to make sure that we continue to build something that when people need it, it's available. And I think that's really important, that we always have those options available to us. The same is true for Bitcoin. There's a lot of talk about how censorship resistance is important, and a lot of talk about censoring, and a lot of talk about freedom of speech, and all these things, but no one has proven that they actually want that. If they actually wanted it, they'd be using it every single day. And it's a lot of, it's really good marketing right now. But if you actually want to see if people believe it in their soul, they're going to act and they're going to do something about it. And we're just not seeing that right now. But when they are ready, and when they're forced to be ready, or when their mind is finally open to take another action and sacrifice the convenience they have right now and the network they have right now, that this place is ready and that Bitcoin is ready, and it's up to the task of supporting billions and billions of people. So it's a long haul, and it's something that, you know, we may not even see the entire fruits in our lifetime. I think we will, but the fact that we have this collection of people working on this and working on these ideals and thinking about the long term and suffering through the small numbers right now, I think is really important, really unique, and I don't know. I love it. I love being part of this community.
Very well spoken dude, that Jack Dorsey. I talked about it on the nostr tutorial that I did yesterday, but Jack actually sent Arnie a 5,000 sat zap on Sunday. It's pretty cool. I screenshotted it because I don't know. I think that Jack's going to be remembered as one of the greatest of what? I don't know. The freedom movement, the open source movement, Bitcoin, everything, the nostr. He's kind of had his hands in everything. And, you know, he founded Twitter. He was the CEO of Twitter for a while. And Twitter, there's not too many people who haven't used Twitter before. So he's kind of a big deal. That reminded me of a quote that I wanted to share here. Hopefully I can find it. Here it is. Look at that. Look at that. Those good skills. Search and destroy. Here it is. So Jack was talking there about how long the process is, how long everything takes, and having things ready and built when people come, when people show up. And it seems like a lot of people are actually showing up to nostr right now. But he said that hopefully we'll be able to see the fruits of the labor that have been put into building Bitcoin, building nostr. He said hopefully, but you never know. But that's the kind of mentality I think that we need to really switch to. Because if you look at some of the infrastructure, and this, you know, I was in Europe about a month ago now, almost 2 months ago now. But the infrastructure and the buildings and how long that stuff took to build. People started building some of those projects knowing that they won't be completed before they die. That's the mentality that they used to have when our dollar actually held its purchasing power. And on the flip side is what we have now in our society, where you have these construction companies, these builders who have to get the building up as fast as possible, mostly because by the time they start it and by the time they finish it, those dollars have lost a significant amount of purchasing power. The inputs to build that structure have gone up by the time they start it to the time they finish it. So they need to get things up as fast as possible. They need to use the cheapest supplies possible, because if they were using the supplies that they used 50 years ago or 100 years ago, the wood and the steel that they were using back then, home prices, the cost of building a house would be 10 times what it is today. So they're forced to use these very cheap materials. They're forced to do it as fast as they can. And that's the fiat mentality that we've just kind of grown into, and we've become. So Jack's talking about the flip side of that, which is building things today that we don't really know if we'll see the end of it and see it through. And Bitcoin and nostr are both great examples of that. I think that we definitely will, but it's just the mentality itself. So here's the quote that I thought of when he said that, which is, a society grows great when old men plant trees in whose shade they shall never sit. A society grows great when old men plant trees in whose shade they shall never sit. That's a hard one to say. Shall never sit. Say that 10 times. Shall never shit. Greek proverb, whatever it is. So that's the Bitcoin mentality. That's like it in a nutshell. We're doing things today not for us, but for the people who are coming, the next generation, the generation after that. And it takes a very long time to do and to get there. But, if you have enough good people, enough intelligent people working towards that common goal on Bitcoin, on nostr, on all these different things, it's going to succeed. And these things are ready right now. We just have to bring the people over there. So that's Jack.